I always tell people I respect religion and faith so much. I just don't believe in like the classic sky dad, white dude with a beard on a cloud. But
Right.
he or she or whatever, I feel like something had to make this. So that being mixed with, I don't know, just something innately, just kind of what was born with, um, shaped me. I'd see my dad smoking crack and my brothers putting guns in my hand and my mom getting beat by men and drinking and sleeping in. And I was like, oh, don't do this.
Right.
Where a lot of other people, excuse me, and a lot of my siblings fell into that kind of same trap, of perpetuating that lifestyle. And I don't know, dude. I just knew it wasn't right.
What made you feel like you want to channel that into something for good of creation as opposed to just kind of repeat the pattern? Was there a pulling inside of you, a knowing? Was there a calling? Was it a friend, a mentor that kind of guided you along that path?
Not really. It was more so just very selfish, if I'm being completely
You're like,
honest
I
and
just want to be
blunt.
rich and famous.
No, not even. It was more so I didn't have anybody there to tell me that they loved me or that, hey, you're doing a good job or, wow, you're really improving or you're this or that. So that message of peace, love, and positivity in my music is because I wasn't actually surrounded by any of it. So I kind of created this almost synthetic world within my genre of music that allowed me to spread that message, but first and foremost to myself. On these
Wow.
records, when I was a young kid, when I was in my early 20s, I'm like, hey man, like I'm on the song, like you can do it. You listening right now, blah, blah, blah. Like you can do it. Follow your dreams, be a good person, spread a good message. But like really, I was like, it was just me. I was just talking to myself.
So you were coaching yourself.
I mean, not very well, probably. It would have been great if somebody else was there. But yeah, I mean, I just, I don't know. And then with the craziest part is then once like the music actually started to kind of like take off and I had like even just a couple hundred fans, I was like, oh, I saw immediately that they resonated with what I was saying because they felt like I was saying it to them. So
Mm.
then I was like, oh, well, let me actually say it to them. Let them know that they care enough. And I'm kind of in this position of power. I want to use it in a positive way. And that's when the message just got bigger and stronger. And yeah.
What was the age growing up that you feel like was the darkest for you? It was like the loneliest, darkest, toughest year.
It's funny, dude, because I got a couple of them. Seriously, it's like I mean, I just remember when my mom was locked up in a mental institution, and my sisters kind of took over the house, and they're like 14, and you know they're doing what 14-year-old kids in the hood tend to do, and yeah, so I didn't have anybody really, and they kind of looked out for me, which was cool. But then at the same time, one of my darkest and most times of feeling alone was when I was 28 years old, and I had the whole world in the palm of my hands, and nobody else understood what I was going through. And a majority of people, whether they were rappers, other entertainers that I would go to, would kind of be like, "Oh yeah, man, yeah, yeah, no, it's cool, you'll be all right," because they're also don't want to deal with what they were going through at the same time. It's kind of
Mm.
gnarly,
What were you dealing
but
with?
I did it.
What were you dealing with? How old were you then? When at the younger age, when your sisters were 14,
Like 9.
9. So 9 and 28. What was
That's
the?
just one of the times.
Yeah, I mean, it's probably every year. But I mean,
Yeah,
when
literally.
when you were 9, what was the thing you were going through the most? What was the biggest challenge?
Well, I mean, I knew that I wasn't. It's funny. I knew that I wasn't like everybody else in my household,
Hmm.
and yet because of coming up in my household, I also knew that I wasn't like all the other kids in the neighborhood or at school,
Right.
which was kind of like a difficult thing. And don't get me wrong, like I fit in. I had a group of friends and people that I would hang out with, but it was like I also didn't fit in, you know? It was just really it was a difficult thing. I think also another thing that was extremely hard to deal with was the fact that, and mind you, I just want everybody listening and watching to know, like, I don't say any of what I'm going to say here about my family and my childhood with any malice or, it's just I've forgiven these people for what they've done, but at the end of the day, the truth hurts.
Yeah.
The truth hurt me as a kid, and it is what it is. And though I may be brutally honest, if these people, and this is what I've dealt with while writing this book, because it's been very cathartic, is if they feel any type of way, they should have felt something 30 years ago before they treated a child like So I just want to say that. So I think it was extremely difficult. Like my mom um, is religious, but like not really. My mom's the type of woman to go, don't take the Lord's name in vain, God, motherfucker, son of a. That's my mom. And whenever you ask questions, or and kids ask questions, you should ask questions. But a lot of faith, which I respect and I understand, it is faith, and that's why they call it faith, because you just have to have faith. But when you're a kid, you're like, yeah, but why?
Exactly.
And you're told, no, we don't question.
Yeah.
Yeah, but why don't we question? No, because, and then so, yeah, I think that was very difficult, having these questions or these ideas, and always just being met with because I said so, was extremely difficult.
That's not a good enough
So,
response
yeah.
for me either, because I said so.
Yeah. I think, especially with my generation, because I'm 31 now, it's just like, parents, and they still do this, tend to treat their kids like they're stupid. You know what I mean? But it's like they're the ones who should be educating them. So if they're asking a question, instead of because I said so, why not be completely honest? Like my wife, she's the best mom. And little Bobby will take his toy and like throw it because he's like a year and a half, and he'll just throw it. And she goes, "No, honey, we want to be gentle." And he looks at her and he's like, "Because we don't want to hurt our toys." And obviously we can't hurt our toys, but we're teaching this boy to, one, hold value in something, especially something I didn't have. He's a little spoiled motherfucker compared to me. And but yeah, so I saw a lot of things in those dark times, and it really shaped me, and has continued to help me as a father and a husband.
What do you think you would say if your 9-year-old self was sitting right in front of you right now? What advice would you say to him to prepare him for what's to come?
Honestly, I wouldn't tell him shit. I've actually gotten people have asked me that question in different ways. Like, what would you tell the younger version of yourself who's rapping or this or that? I think the rapper, I'd be like, "You're never gonna make it," just to get him even more fired, so he doesn't put his feet up,
Yeah.
and just think like everything's cool. I mean, it's like I don't really know what I would tell him. I know what he needs to hear,
What's he need to
and I
hear?
don't think that's necessarily the same thing. But he needs to hear, "I love you. You're a good person. You can do anything you want in the world. You're really smart. You're a good kid." I never heard that. I wish I did. That would have been nice.
Really? Never heard that ever.
Yeah. No, I never heard that ever.
What do you think would have happened had you have heard that consistently?
Well, if I had heard that, I don't think I would have been in the house that I was in either, right? You know what I
Right.
mean? It's
Sure.
like I would have had a completely different life, which I talk about in this book, and I say how there was times when I really wished I could be a dog in a rich family, and like people would pet me and tell me they love me and play with me, and then I'd get maybe like 12 years out of it, and it would just be way better than what I was experiencing. So I remember having thoughts like that for sure.
What would you say are the 3 biggest lessons you learned from childhood?
How not to treat a child. Um, that your household and your upbringing actually doesn't define you. It doesn't. It has a great impact on who you will become. But there are these like anomalies, and just these people who, I mean, myself, right? It's like I came from, violence and being surrounded by drugs and alcohol and all these different things. Yet I didn't choose that path. And then you could have, kids who came up in great stable families, and they're like Tony Montana, like my best friend Josh growing up. He was walking around with shotguns in his trench coat, but he lived in a 3-story household with 2 parents who loved him. So it was really weird.
Right.
And then the third lesson or thing that I learned from my childhood, um, wow, that's a good one. I think as a dad, even more, even though I kind of just said that, but is that's really where you're shaped. Obviously, it's like duh, but it's just I think about how much I did alone, and I wish that if I had a parent there to support my love of anime and sci-fi and all this stuff, like it would have just been so cool. I remember being 14 years old, and my mom was like, "You cannot watch Kill Bill. You cannot watch Kill Bill. You cannot watch." And then so I watched it anyway, alone. And it's like I'm 14, man. It's not like,
Yeah, you're not
you
like
know what I
7.
mean? Come on.
Yeah, yeah.
Exactly. And it changed my life forever. I mean, that movie literally inspired me on so many insane levels, like discovering RZA from Wu-Tang Clan and then discovering Wu-Tang Clan, which is why I started rapping in the first place. And it's
Wow.
like, dude, a couple years ago, yeah, I did a song called Wu-Tang Forever, and I have every living member of the Wu-Tang Clan on one song. It was like this crazy, amazing, milestone for me. And yeah, I mean, and it's so much more, and anime and filmmaking and storytelling and excuse me, all these different things that inspired me. And it's like if I had had somebody there just to, like I remember I used to draw Dragon Ball Z characters as a kid. It's like this anime, this fighting show, and my
Yeah.
mom was like, why is everything so violent? Why does it have to be so violent? Meanwhile, then she throws an iron cup and splits the side of her husband's head open, and you can see his skull, and then she gets hauled off by the police.
Oh
And
my gosh.
it's a great. And then I was with him for I don't know, maybe like a month, and he didn't go to work, and all he did was drink all day, and his name was Tony Bransford, and he was kind of a nice guy actually, but he had some demons, and I'll never forget I had these toy guns, and they were like my favorite possession, and I was like, oh man, and I ran up behind him. Meanwhile, my mom's like in jail or something, and I'm like, look, hey Tony, look, bang, 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 and I'm like seven,
Oh,
six,
man.
and he takes them and he goes, don't you ever, it's like 10 in the morning, and he's face, point a gun at another person, even if it's not real. And he takes it and he throws it on the linoleum tile floor in our kitchen, and he slams it. He's not wearing any shoes or anything. And like 5-inch piece of now triangular plastic shoots deep under the heel of his foot and back into his heel. And he just goes, mother. And he goes back and he grabs it and he takes it out. And it spews all over the place like a Kill Bill fight scene. And then there was just this giant puddle of blood on the linoleum floor for a very, very long time. And you could like easily write in cursive with a penny in it. Like that's kind of the vibe that it was. And that's, yeah, I mean, and that's a light day, dude. Like it was just,
That's
it
a
was
Tuesday.
really weird.
It's a Tuesday morning, just showing up.
Yeah,
you know?
Tony was a good man though. He just, like I said, he just had a lot of demons. He was mixed. Like me, he had a black father and a French white European mother. And one of the nicest things that Tony ever did for me, I'll never forget it. I got caught smoking when I was 5 years old. I didn't want to do it.
5.
And back then it was, 5. Oh, bro, come on. Yeah. And so I'm sorry, Lewis. I keep calling you bro.
It's all good. It's all good.
bro. And so, yeah. Back then it was really easy, right? Because everybody smoked, so it was like, hey, Ian's mom needs a cigarette, and then you go to Ian's mom and you go, oh, my mom needs a lighter. She can't find a lighter, and she's just around the corner, and she asked me to, like, what? You need a lighter? You're a smoker? Yeah. And then we got caught, and then I'll never forget. She sat me down. It was the closest thing to a Corey Matthews Boy Meets World moment that I ever had, and she was just like, listen, Tony's gonna whoop.
Wow.
And I was like, okay. So Tony takes me into the back, and I mean, this guy's got cinder blocks for hands.
Oh my gosh.
He's like completely bald on top, but really long hair. He's like a cowboy, honestly, and he wears cowboy boots. And I mean, this dude was a welder, and I mean, crazy, right? So he sits me down, and I am so scared.
Oh my! You're 5.
And
You're
I'm looking
terrified.
at this,
yeah.
I'm looking at this giant man, right?
Oh my God.
And I'm like, oh my God. And he goes, now you listen here,
Oh.
Bobby. And I say, oh, here it comes. And he goes, this is actually the nicest thing anybody's ever done for me or to me. One of them. He goes, when I was a little boy, my dad used to beat me till I was bloody, and he beat my sisters and my brothers too. And I promised myself that I would never put my hands on a child. So I'm not going to do that. And I was like, really? And he goes, yeah. But we're going to make your mom think I'm whooping your ass in here and I'm really taking care of business. So he started he starts smacking his hands and I'm smacking my hand. Oh, Tony, no, stop it. Oh my God. And I'm like, we're going, hey, I should have gotten an Oscar. So this guy, so it's all done, right? And he's like, all right, boy, never forget this lesson. And I'm like, okay, cool. It sounds like a character out of Red Dead Redemption. And so he walks out of the room and I was just still going, Tony, oh. And he comes back in and he goes, hey, boy, I can't be in the living room and whooping your ass at the same time. Shut the up. And I was like, all right. So I don't know how the hell we got there, but.
That's good. I'm glad he didn't beat you. Yeah.
Yeah, but it's like my mom tells me this. Oh, I know. Another thing that had sparked this was because I said so. And it was like my mom whoops my and she gives me this talking to while like her and her second or third husband, I forget what he is, and are both smoking cigarettes at the same time. Like it's gnarly.
Well, they're saying don't do this. Yeah, exactly.
Yeah.
What was the man? You're at the top of the world at 28, but you were just saying a few years ago you were also in a dark place as well, and people weren't really able to connect with you, or artists at your level weren't able to really emotionally and vulnerably be able to resonate with you or really listen to you. What was the thing that was going on that was the hardest for you then?
I mean, it was a lot, dude. And I think the reason why it was so difficult too is because like I then started to make music about it, right? Because I've always made music about every single thing that I went through. Made music about having no money, being extremely poor and feeling unloved, and then I would make music about how to juggle millions of dollars and a giant staff and being on tour constantly, da da da. And then so it kind of shifted to like, oh, like you're complaining about being rich and blah blah blah. So then fans kind of felt a certain way, and it's just like, no, I'm not. Everybody's got money problems. And then it's funny because I had released this album in 2019, and it's funny. It's actually my most popular album and technically most successful album. And yet, like critically, it was my most hated on album. It was called Confessions of a Dangerous Mind. And then everyone's like, he fell off. He's never coming back, which is just so funny to me, especially in hip hop, but in music where it's like, I just like had the biggest song in the world, the biggest album in the world, the shit platinum, da da da, all this other shit. And then the next year, it's just like, he's totally off. And then the year after that, I was like, okay. And I say this to say like, I was like, okay, you know what? I'm going to write about these things, but in a much more relatable way. I was just being very blunt and like, hey, this is what I'm going through. Mm-hmm. But obviously people don't want to hear about people's champagne problems.
Right.
So I was like, okay, cool. So then I won't say millions. I'll just say money. I won't say, oh, it's hard being away from the mansion. I'll be like, it's hard being away from my pregnant wife and our home.
Yeah.
I'll use certain words, on records I have like dad bod and this and that, blah, blah, blah. Long story short, I mean, in the first week I sold 250,000 units, albums. And it's like, oh, he's back. And then I retired and I took some time off, and then I decided to come back. And trust me, I'm getting to your 2018 question. I decided to come back this year, and it was very short. It was more like a slight intermission. It wasn't really a retirement. But I woke up one day and wanted to release music, and so I did. And then it's like, oh, he fell off. And it's just like this thing that's so funny where it's just like, what? Like, what do you even mean? And so in 2018, yeah, man, it was really difficult. I made $30 million. It changed my life.
In 1 year.
Yeah, literally. But the thing about me though too is like it's a slow burn. So everybody might know me as like, oh, it's the Suicide Guy. Yeah, it's the 1-800 song. Wow, But as proud as I am of the song, I had been grinding for 10 years, and I had built a fan base over that time, a very, very big fan base, where I could do 5,000-6,000 people a night, which is really, really special. And then obviously I made this song, which I thought would never be a hit record. And then I'm selling out Madison Square Garden, which is really incredible. It's a big milestone for me, because just 8 years before then, I was in a guest room at my godmother's house doing my first signatures ever as Logic. And I actually have it framed over here. And it says me practicing my autograph, 12/1/2010. And it's a whole bunch of Logic signatures. And at the bottom is a platinum ticket to a sold out Madison Square Garden, which is kind of crazy.
That's amazing.
Dude, what's really amazing is I've accomplished a lot and I've done a lot, and I never thought about it. I never appreciated it. I was always moving on to the next thing. And I think that's what that was too. I was exhausted. I was tired. And it was just like, people saying like, oh, you ain't never going to have fans, and you have fans. And it's like, oh, well, you'll never be able to perform. And then you perform for like maybe 50 people. Well, you'll never have 100 people there, never have 1,000. And 1,000 turns into 4, and 4 to 8, and 8 to 22,000 people sold out in an arena or outside amphitheater or this or that. Oh, you'll never, yeah, man, you ain't never going to finish a mixtape. Then you finish a mixtape. Oh, you ain't never going to put out an album. You put out an album. Yeah, well, you ain't never going to go gold, and you go gold. Oh, you'll never go platinum. You go platinum. Now I'm 10 times platinum. And it's like, when is it enough? And that's how I felt in 2018. What is enough? I'm not good enough, not black enough, not rich enough, not poor enough, not this enough, not that enough. And I'm constantly being berated, especially on social media. I haven't been on social media in 2 years.
Wow.
And I'm the happiest that I've ever been. But it's also had a negative effect on my quote unquote brand, which I could give a about, because at the end of the day, I would rather be happy and doing the things that I love and spending a majority of my time with my wife and son while also being, creative on the side. So that was a lot to take in 2018. I mean, to
Wow.
the point where, sorry, I know I'm going on, but and I had a show in Pittsburgh. I was emaciated. I was throwing up backstage. I was completely unhealthy. I wanted to kill myself. I didn't. I just was. It was the most difficult thing in the world. Everybody online saying you're a piece of shit or you're this or that or blah blah blah. You suck, or I hope your baby dies and
Wow.
your wife's a ugly and blah blah. And she was just some girl who worked at a smoothie shop I met. Like, this is the craziest. And I was going through a divorce at the time, and this, da, da, da. It was mind you, I'm married now, and I'm talking about the woman that
Right.
I was that I was with at the time, and so it was just the most difficult thing. And then I got to go out on stage, and I remember feeling like I was passing out, and it was really crazy. And everything started to fade, and I'm in front of all these people, and I kind of stopped the show, and I remember being in the car. I jumped in the truck to just leave in the middle of the show. And I was like, I can't do this.
Wow.
But what I meant was I can't leave. I was like, I can't leave these fans. Like, I spent my whole life to get here, and now I'm just going to leave. Like, I can't do that. But literally, I was riddled with anxiety, extremely unhealthy, both mentally and physically. And I got back out on stage, and I told the crowd, and it's in the book. I forget exactly what I said, but I basically said, I feel like shit. I feel like I'm going to die.
Wow.
I'm so scared right now. Like, I don't know what to do, but I'm going to be honest with you. And I started fighting back these tears, right? And I was like, I just am so tired. I was like, I'm constantly on tour. I'm on tour 10, 11 months out of the year, show after show after show, go after go, people in your ear, people in your pocket, people like, you may never be here again. You got to keep going. And I'm telling the crowd this, and I'm like, I just want you to know that you're worth it. And that's
Wow.
why I'm on stage right now, because I'm here to spread that positive message of peace, love, and positivity, and let you know that even in your darkest of times, you can persevere. So that's what I'm going to do for you here tonight. I'm going to do my best to persevere and not just walk off this stage. And then I broke down and I cried, and then the internet made fun of me. And that was a very difficult year. And that wasn't even all of it. That was just like such a slight moment.
Wow, man. So you were in the back of a trunk, ready to bounce, and then you said, "Let me get back
Well, not
out
the trunk.
there."
I was in the truck. But
The
yeah.
truck. I thought you were like said you were in the trunk of the truck.
Oh, no.
hiding in the truck. But you were in the truck and you were about to bounce, but then you went back out.
Yeah. I mean, I've done that every show I've ever done. I've done shows I shouldn't have done. I've done shows with 103-degree fevers. I've done shows where I'm intermittently puking my brains out on the side. I've done shows hawking up blood from my throat, smoking cigarettes and shit. I'm glad I did it.
What do
I'm
you
glad
think?
I did
Yeah.
it just because I'm here financially, and now I can do whatever I want or not. And I don't plan on going on tour anytime soon. So
That's nice. What would you say was the root of you feeling kind of that anxiety, that overwhelm, that stress? Was it that you felt like you were never able to live up to what people thought you couldn't do, or was it just your own internal dialogue? Was there something else going on?
it was definitely a bit of both, because when you have millions of people on the internet, saying that you ain't shit. Meanwhile, people are also loving you. Like the good always outweighs the bad. Alan
Yeah,
Watts
yeah.
said, anything you can be interested in, you'll find others who are. And that's what I found in hip hop. I found other nerds, like, so when I first started rapping, I'm talking about sci-fi and Star Wars and all this shit that nobody really on a mainstream levels was really rapping
Yeah.
around about your emotions and you're this and you're that. And then meanwhile, people can't really put me in a box because I look white, but my dad's black. So I'm biracial, but then that becomes this whole like meme thing where people are like, why are you always got to prove that you black? Like, why you got to, and it's like, what are you talking about? I just sat down to do an interview and you asked me what it was like to be a white boy in hip hop. And I just told you that every single person in my family is black with the exception of my mother. And now I'm suddenly like defending myself. Meanwhile, Kendrick Lamar, Black Thought, Killer Mike, so many incredibly amazing rappers talk about being black in all their songs. Black, I'm blacker than black. Black is beautiful. Black is this. And I come on 3 records for the first time in my career, my 3rd album in, going, hey guys, I'm 2 things at the same time. And everyone's like, shut the fuck up. Like, it's kind of it's a gnarly thing. So dealing with that, dealing with identity, and see the funny thing is I never had an identity issue. I never didn't know what my identity was. I did. It was other people who couldn't accept it. They didn't like the fact that I understand and I'm of the culture. And yet, this is the shade We call it ultra light skin. No, I'm just kidding. But I feel like that was extremely difficult, and you know, just not being accepted. I was never accepted, but I say in this book, you can't stand out and fit in at the same time. And so,
That's true.
even though it was a difficult road, I am very happy that I went through it all. But I was trying to make other people happy. So that's what anyone listening now has to do. They have to earn it, and they have to be prepared. I would say get therapy, get a therapist, and try to find balance as best as you can. But it's when it comes to dreams, there really is no balance. It's kind of just 100% this thing.